Hello everyone, and welcome to another one of our videos. Please take a deep breath, relax, and enjoy.
Sex workers of Reddit, what was the saddest request you have ever received? Was asked to just hug a girl on my chest, occasionally kissing her forehead. Her brother died in a car crash and she had no one else. She was crying immensely while she spoke to me. It distorted her voice, so I hugged her and kept her close to me. She gradually cried less as I provided physical comfort, which alludes me to think her brother may have been more of a father figure to her. Sometimes customers are genuinely troubled and just need some comfort. In these seldom circumstances I won't charge and usually provide a lot more service than to those who do pay, mainly out of empathy. Probably not the saddest, but it's the most recent one. A guy gave me $300 every 2 weeks just to text him and treat him nicely. No physical contact, no nudes or sexting. Literally just wanted good morning and good night texts, and someone to encourage him as far as work and his hobbies went. He's super sweet. Hasn't been able to pay for anything lately as he's laid off because of the virus, but I check in on him and see how he's doing pretty frequently. I've got a lot of stories, but honestly, the amount of guys I've spoken to in private who just needed someone to talk to be kind to them, to feel a connection with. It's a lot. I try to portray a very cheerful and kind persona as a cam girl, so I think I attract guys that are more lonely than horny. Someone replied, "I've got a friend in his early 40s, who's a pretty book-smart, good-looking dude. But, he's pretty emotionally immature and absolutely cannot connect with women. I've seen him try and it's actually quite sad. He more or less reverts to being an agitated 14-year-old. A few months back he told me he was looking for a cam girl just to talk to, since he was tired of not being able to talk to anyone, and that he found a few who seemed really excited to talk to him. He really is a nice guy. I didn't have the heart to tell him that for these girls it's just a job for them and there really won't be an emotional connection. I'm not sure if he ever went through with it. He wanted to make me the beneficiary of his life insurance, then have me go to Colombia separately from him, meet up with him and kill him erotically. I'm still not sure if he was being serious or wanted to kill me. He did say he had a degenerative disease that'd leave him completely paralyzed in a few years. And he did have me use some wire mesh condom on a big dildo up his butt until I got uncomfortable with how bloody he was getting. He wanted me to continue sanding his hole. At least he tipped really well afterwards. Not my story, but someone else's that somehow stuck with me. Owner of an escort service who shared a story of a guy who apparently was from a wealthy family, but as a child hardly ever saw his parents. He was raised by an au pair or nanny with beautiful long hair which he always combed for her as a kid. Into puberty he had got aroused from combing it, she noticed, and gave him his first sexual experience. Since then the man always requested girls with long hair and only wanted to comb it and then get a hand job. Kinda sad thinking about all the parental love he missed and trying to compensate like this. Former dancer here. I had an old man weep to me and ask me to sit on his lap as he blubbering told me that his daughter was a girl like me and he didn't want me to dance, he just wanted me to sit on his lap while he cried. Definitely awkward for the girls next to me trying to be sexy. Also had a man with alopecia, no hair whatsoever, ask for me to spit on him and rub it in. Pretty pathetic. In my younger days, I worked at a mail review. I had this woman of about 40-something who would come in fairly regularly. She asked me to a dinner date. I obliged her request, as she was quite attractive. About 5 minutes in, she started bawling, and when I asked what's the matter, she told me I was an exact replica of her son whom she lost to cancer. She proceeded to show me pictures, and to be honest the resemblance was uncanny. We chatted over the years since, but in 2018 she passed of cancer. My wife is a dancer and the saddest story she told me was about a Syrian, I think, refugee. He'd been in America for 2 years waiting on paperwork for his family to follow him and immigrate. He felt really guilty for being there but was really lonely and just wanted a hug for human contact, told her about his family the whole time. Not me but a friend who cams, a guy DM'd her and asked for a 30-minute video call. She said yes and they went on Discord, but instead of anything sexual the guy just asked how her day was and continued to have an honest conversation for an hour. When he said he had to go he asked how much he owed her and she refused any payment. Apparently this happens very often and it's kinda depressing because these people are really nice but are often overweight. I had sex with a 23-year-old guy who was younger than me by 3 years, and his wish was to have sex as his last dying wish. He wanted me to make him feel loved, as if he found the right person for him. He never found anyone in his life that could make him feel better, so I had to stand up for him. Damn, he was a good guy and yet he had cancer. I used to cam as a denial dom and I worked with a guy who was really into being humiliated and didn't seem to believe me for quite some time when I told him I was into dominance in real life, off the camera, too. I am not usually into the humiliation aspect but played along with him as he wasn't asking for anything too extreme and it was hands down the hottest session I've ever had. I always insisted on aftercare after a session because I feel it's negligent not to offer it and he opened up to me for half an hour about how much pressure is on him constantly and how much of a relief he finds this particular kink to be. He was from a strict Midwestern family with very strict notions of masculinity and there was so much catharsis flowing out of him in that moment, like getting off with someone who was willing to let him be weak had torn down a huge dam of some kind and it was all just running out. I'd heard a lot of similar stuff from clients, especially guys who are new at it, which I got a lot of, but he was on a whole other level of wildly self-aware and intelligent and emotionally in tune. And it felt so tragic that someone that insightful and intuitive and sensitive should have spent a lifetime feeling the need to tamp it down. He had a really healthy view of his kink and the baggage associated with it and I wished him the best and still do, and I hope he's in a better place and can express himself and his feelings of weakness and vulnerability publicly now too. I think of him all the time, probably once a week. I wonder how he's doing and if he found himself a girl offline to give him what he needs, now that he knows they exist for real and not just in porn. If we lived in the same state I'd have come and effed him for free. Not a worker, but in college I was in Vegas and thought it would be cool to bang a prostitute. Anyway, I found this well-dressed, well-kept Asian girl and I was amped. I was a little nervous, not gonna lie, and before she did anything she broke down in tears saying that she can't live this life anymore. Originally she did it to provide for her daughter, but her daughter was killed in an automotive accident. And she has the ability to go back to school, but if she leaves the game it could cost her her life. I told her I'm in really no position to help her as I'm 21 years old and helping her would just put both of us in danger. She left, and I hope she's doing well today. Not me, but a story told to me from a girl I know who used to be a sex worker. She had a regular client who'd come in every week, and just wanted to talk, be held or innocent things like that. Never wanted anything sexual. According to her this wasn't that unusual, as some guys felt guilty about going to a brothel or just wanted fetishes satisfied. But she said this dude was different. From what she pieced together he had an extremely unhappy home life. It seemed the only happiness he had in life was the hour he spent with this girl. She said one time he booked an appointment but never showed up, and they never heard from him again. No need to be judgmental. These ladies do lots of good for society. They are unsung heroes. Unfortunately, sex work is very underappreciated. Many times they work in terrible conditions and on top of that society and the law is out to get them. These ladies saved countless marriages and lives too, and who knows what else, yet all they get most of the time is a few dollars and no appreciation or respect they deserve. Ladies of the sex industry, I salute you. Thank you for your service. I'm a guy who shoots porn, so technically a sex worker. I've got some requests of PH users who sent me some messages. One guy just wanted me to shoot a girl who would say, "Hi, John, I love you John, I miss you John," and so on. I guess this guy has nobody who talks to him. A friend of mine, this happened recently too, we were out drinking and decided to call 2 local escorts, and also got a hotel for ourselves with 2 queen beds. They came knocking on the door shortly after. It was 2 really young and nice looking girls in their 20s, both blonde. Somehow his escort, or should I say partner, looked a lot like his ex-wife. His ex-wife cheated on him while we were deployed overseas. We are both in the army. He loved her really much, and also because of the alcohol I guess. He hugged the girl for a long while and cried. I felt bad for him. He was saying, "I loved you so much, why did you do that to me," etc. He held her in his arms and kept crying and kissing her forehead. He fell asleep after a while. I told her that I am sorry that my buddy got emotional, and explained to her the situation. She said it's okay and she would sleep next to him the whole night and that we only need to pay for 2-hour fee instead of overnight. The next morning my buddy tipped her pretty good and told her to take care of herself. Not gonna lie, I was a stereotypical type when it comes to sex workers, but she really changed my view about it. There are dozens of stories I heard that were sad in different ways, but the 2 that stand out are about a fairly young Australian guy who got his new friend for the evening back to his room, and when she was checking him in the shower she seen his junk was a disaster zone. She said it was all a swollen lump. He did not want sex, He wanted her to push pencils down his penis. She refused to even touch him and he started crying. The other story I remember is about a middle-aged European guy who, when he got someone back to his room, would make phone calls during sex. He would call his wife and kids and talk while in the act. He would call at weird times and say he could not sleep and he wanted to hear their voices. He could not do anything until he made a call and started acting the good husband and father. I was told this story by more than one person. He did it a lot. This is a different kind of interaction of similar tone. And I had a phone sex client. It became clear after a few calls that I think his only interactions were online and involved giving money for attention back. I don't know if he had the means to keep this up or not. But he got very weird around the 5th call. Upset I wasn't online as much to talk. Wanted to talk all throughout the day, and when he couldn't afford it would try to haggle me lower in price. I told him that this amount isn't healthy for the mind and he should seek therapy. I was diagnosed with PTSD and had wonderful therapy that changed my life around. He got upset at me and blocked me. 2 days later, I wake up to text messages asking me to take him back. He sent photos of the front and back of all of his credit cards to prove he was serious. I felt so bad for him. I'm a stripper, if you count that among sex workers. The saddest thing to me is that people seem to expect that it's always gross or sad. There are a lot of different ways to be a stripper and I can only speak out of my own experiences. There's a lot of stigma around it and all kinds of sex work, at least in the US, but I wish people could see without so much judgment how healing this type of work can be for both the clientele and the provider. Many of my clients, especially regulars, come to see me as much for the emotional intimacy as well as physical intimacy. It makes me sad that so many straight men don't feel like they can be emotionally vulnerable or intimate unless it's with a sexual partner, or, in my case, a sexy stand-in. But at the same time I am really touched to be there for some of them, and hold that kind of space. One of my old regulars was a volunteer firefighter who lived alone in a big house. Called me when he'd get off a bad shift, and during our sessions he rarely spoke. He would just lay beside me for up to half an hour at a time, quiet and still. One time he called me Mary, not my real name, and never acknowledged it, so I didn't either. I like to think seeing me was comforting in some way for him. That's the thing about sex work, society may see it as just girls selling their bodies for cash, but there's so much emotional work that goes into providing a safe, enjoyable intimate experience for a complete stranger.
Congratulations, you've made it to the end. We want to thank you again for giving us a few minutes of your time, and we wish you have a great rest of your day, night, or whenever you're watching this. If you enjoyed the video, please make sure to subscribe. It really does help us a lot. That's it from me. Roll the outro.